The PS defense is a hypermodern and flexible opening, and it allows black to build a solid and a dynamic position. And it starts with the move e4, d6, d4, and then you play knight f6. And here, black give up the central control and later counterattack with moves like e5 or c5. And the idea is to play g6 and put this bishop on the g7 to attack along the center. Here, more than thousands of players make the mistake of playing e5, which is a blunder because after you take, white recaptures. You can take a queen, king takes, and then you go knight to g4, with the idea of threatening a fork on f2 and also attacking this pawn. So you have to play king e1, and then you can just take this pawn and you are up a pawn and you are just completely winning. Now let's cover the variations in the PS defense one by one. After e4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, you play g6, knight f3, normal move, bishop g7, white goes bishop e2. This is the classical variation of the PS defense. Both side castle, and then you play a6. White goes a4, you play knight c6, developing your knight. White goes d5, attacking your knight. And here you play knight to b4, a5, trying to gain space. We play e6, attacking white center. Let's say white goes rook a4, attacking the knight. And here you can defend with c5. He captures en passant, and then you can recapture with the knight. And here white can go bishop g5, pinning your knight to the queen. This is a move you need to be care of. Here, if you take this pawn, then white can play e5. Now you have to take this pawn, and after this queen trade, the knight becomes undefended, and white can just take this knight, and you are down a piece. Therefore here, after bishop g5, you have to just move your queen out of the way, and you are okay here. Now let me show you one of the aggressive variation, which is called the 150 attack. And after e4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, with the idea of putting this queen here and trade off your dark square bishop. So after something like a6, let's say white goes queen d2, you play b5, trying to expand along the queen side, f3, then you develop the knight, white castle here, and then you play knight b6. Let's say white goes h4, here you play h5, knight h3, trying to put his knight on the outpost, but you eliminate the knight, and after rook takes, you go c6. Let's say white goes bishop d3, you play queen c7, and after white goes something like king v1, then you can play bishop g7. Here white can play e5, and after you take this pawn, white recaptures. You can play knight fd5, knight takes, and then you recapture. f4 defends the pawn, and here you can just play e6, and after white goes something like queen e2, you can just take this bishop. You can castle on the queen side, bring the rooks along this open file, and then continue to play. Here after g6, white also have the aggressive option of f4. This is the Austrian attack. White's idea is to develop the knight behind the pawn, which will add as an extra attacker for the e5 square. So let's say after bishop g7, knight f3, you castle here. White goes something like bishop d3. You can play knight c6, developing the knight. White castle here, you play e5, takes. Here, d takes e5 is not a good option because you can just take this pawn with the knight, and after knight takes, you can play queen d4 and regain the knight, and black is quite better here. Therefore here, white goes d5, attacking your knight. You just play knight to d4, knight takes e5. Here you just sacrifice your knight by playing knight takes e4. This is just a discovered attack on the knight, and after bishop takes, you can take his knight and then continue playing. And here, There is one more popular line in the Pirc defense. After e4 d6, d4 knight f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e2, bishop g7, white goes g4. This is the Chinese variation. White's idea is to play g4 h4 early in the game and launch an kingside attack. So let's say after you play d5, white goes e5, attacking your knight. Then you just play knight d4, knight takes, d takes c4, bishop e3, developing the bishops. You play c5, trying to undermine white's center. White goes c3, defending this pawn. And here you can play knight to c6, putting more pressure on the center. And you can also bring your queen to b6 square to attack these pawns. And the position is quite better for black. Now let me show you a funny line in the Pirc defense, which can be quite useful for you. Here after e4 d6, d4, knight f6, you can go with this tricky move bishop c4. Here, if he goes with the normal g6, then it's fine. But the most common move is yes, knight takes e4. And you can shock him with bishop takes f7. King is forced to take, and then you play queen h5 check, g6, and then just you can play queen to d5 and then regain the knight. Here the material is quite equal, but white have a higher winning chances because of quick development. Then this is not the end. If you want to learn some more chess openings, then you can check out this left playlist. And if you want to learn some chess traps, then you can check out this right playlist. And if you don't want to miss more amazing videos like these, then don't forget to subscribe.